Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Logan, the drunken metalhead who muses, and tonight I've got kind of a personal take on a metal and beer pairing for you. It's personal because it involves a life update of something that will affect how I approach YouTube and how I buy music and digest music potentially. So, the big news is I'm moving to New Orleans, Louisiana, of all places. So, this is going to be themed around that. Let's dive in. Well, first, I want to say I was in New Orleans for the past week, about kind of on a reconnaissance mission, kind of figuring out where and when I wanted to end up in this city. Of course, I fit in some record stops and brewery and beer stops as well. One of the few CDs I did pick up, which is playing in the background, is Floor's latest and second album, Oblation. Great band, which is the original band for the dudes who went on to be in Torch. So, still a slightly poppy, heavy, sludge sound like Torch, but I think decidedly more serious than what they ended up becoming. Great album, though. I'm glad that I finally have this in the collection. And then, of course, one of the beers that I picked up there is a Louisiana staple and definitely a New Orleans staple. It's from Abita Brewing, which is out of Abita Springs, Louisiana. And this is Andy Gator, their Doppelbock. So, excited to crack this one open. And it definitely pairs with just the album I'm about to talk about. Both are heavy yet digestible. Cheers. So now on to the album that I actually want to talk about. This is New Orleans Crowbar with their album Broken Glass. So this is a fairly important album for me and a fairly important band for a couple reasons I will dive into. But for right now, brief introduction. Of course, one of the New Orleans sludge metal bands that really made the scene and put it on the map in the 90s. This is their fourth album, which came out in 1996. First, a little update on the personnel. We got, of course, Kirk Weinstein on vocals and guitars, Matt Thomas on lead guitar, Todd Strange on bass, and then this is the only album that Jimmy Bower from I Hate God and Down fame played drums on. There's also a cool addition in Phil Anselmo, who pops in for some backing vocals. Alright, so now for the importance of Crowbar. At least for me, they strike me as a very much a working man's band. It sounds like the music was made for an individualist who is striving to succeed in, middle America, fighting against work, substance abuse, destructive relationships, and more importantly than all of that, trying to come out to the other side positive and as a better, stronger human being. And as a man in his late 20s, I'm starting to gel with the message found in the music a lot more, especially as I'm now starting to realize how it is to switch jobs and careers and to move to different and exciting places, especially the places where, this band and all of their members have called home. It really gives it a cool perspective on their music. So because of the current life situations that I'm going through, along with where I'm moving, their music has increased in significance for me. But then at the same time, it does not deny that I've actually been listening to this band for like over 10 years. And they were one of the first bands that kind of introduced hardcore influence and more extreme, intense sounds to my, musical listening experience. And it all started with this album right here, Broken Glass. I probably picked this one up 2011, I want to say. So well over 10 years ago. I think this is an interesting starting point for a listener to get into this band. So for me, this album right here is a lot more hardcore influenced and just a shit ton more intense because of that. And as the first Crowbar album, it made it kind of a tricky release to fully dive into, and one that I was initially not as keen on, but no matter what, I held on to it and kept it around, and boy am I glad that I did. So the music found on Broken Glass is blistering, pissed off, and not really focused on any kind of melodicism. Even in the slow parts, I would say it's equal parts super fast, almost Hatebreed level hardcore intensity combined with the slower Crowbar songs. But no matter what, it keeps up this pissed off vibe all the way through. In the context of their discography, this kind of makes this album a little bit one note. It's not as complex and as emotionally intense as their later output, but then at the same time, at 38 minutes and 10 songs, it's not as lean and concise as their previous albums, especially their self-titled. So because of this, I felt this was a hard Crowbar album to digest originally, and it's still not as enjoyable as some of their other releases, but at the same time it makes it kind of unique in their discography, and one that I've definitely revisited. It's probably Crowbar their least melodic, and even the slower songs are still very abrasive in their nature. It's definitely Crowbar with their most scorched earth policy as it comes to their music. I kind of credit this to Jimmy Bower being on the drums. That hardcore intensity has to originate from somewhere, and I think it kind of started with him. So to me, the album can be divided into two halves. Each half serves up 3 intense hardcore songs and 2 slower but still emotionally crushing, like sludgy tracks. And kind of because of this, the first half carries as the stronger of the two, just because of the repeat nature of the flow. And also, you can't deny Conquering going right into like Broken Glass. Those are the most intense Jimmy Bower led songs in the album. It's just like the drum beat dun, 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 the whole way through, with a breakdown in the middle of those just phenomenal Crowbar sludge riffs that we all love. And then to wrap up the first 3 songs, which really is the strongest part of the album, it's Can't Turn Away From Dying, which my favorite song on the album. And it perfectly balances the slow burning tracks with that hardcore intensity. And yeah, absolutely love it. Wrath of Time, Be Judgment, and Nothing are also good ways to wrap up the first half, with Nothing being a great slower song, which actually features a bit of beautiful piano to kind of close it out. So because of this, the second half of the album, can't help but seem a bit more redundant, and I kind of start to zone out just a little bit. But man, some of these songs are indeed some of the better from the album. I Am Forever You Can't Deny, with its intense lyrical structure and just the whole feel of it. And then the two closing songs are also highlights. You Know I'll Live Again, and then Reborn Through Me. Both have misspellings in the song titles too. Funny enough, but yeah. So because it's like strongest in the beginning and at the end, there's a little bit of lull in the middle where I can't help but wander. But then at the same time, it's still entertaining all the way through, and it's only 38 minutes. So, Broken Glass easily retains your attention for the most part throughout its runtime, and I cannot fault it that much. It's an intense, pissed off album in the Crowbar discography that really just focuses on breaking you down. And there's not as much building up of you, as a person. But then at the same time, that's kind of what you look for with the NOLA sludge scene. So I'm not faulting them. So yes, this is a cool midpoint in their discography. At album number 4, I think it kind of bridges the gap between the earlier like self-titled Crowbar sound and the later like Oddfellows Rest Crowbar sound. And I think it helped serve as a blueprint for some modern hardcore bands. As I mentioned earlier, I hear a little bit of Hatebreed in here. So this album, I think, is extremely important. With everything that I have said, I'm giving this an 8.4 out of 10 on Drunken Metalhead Reviews. So yeah, thank you for watching this important review and information session with me. As I said, moving to New Orleans will entail a lot more music from this band and a lot more beer from this brewery. So, cheers!